We landed in one of those corkscrew landings and ran out because they said there might be sniper fire. I don't remember anybody offering me tea on the tarmac when that was happening. The welcoming ceremony had to be moved inside because of sniper fire.
I was the first high-profile American to go into Bosnia after the Dayton Peace Accords. Nearly everywhere I went, I was briefed both by the CIA, by the Department of Defense, by State Department.
But when you mention something like Bosnia, that people have responded, yeah, but she went to Bosnia, for example, with Sinbad, with a performer. That was what that was about. That wasn't really establishing any kind of foreign policy.
Oh, you know, again.
I certainly do remember that trip to Bosnia, and as Togo said, there was a saying around the White House that if a place was too small, too poor, or too dangerous, the president couldn't go, so send the First Lady. And that's where we went. And I remember landing under sniper fire. There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
I know you recalled, ducking under sniper fire, and Sinbad, in his account, who was on the trip, he said that the most dangerous part was remembering where he was going to eat next.
He's a comedian, you know, Jeff. He's a comedian. When we were flying into Bosnia, we had to, part of the reason we were in the C-17 is because part of it is armored. I was moved up into the cockpit. Everyone else was told to sit on their bulletproof vests, you recall that. And we came in a evasive maneuver. There was no greeting ceremony, and we basically were told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened.
First Lady Hillary Clinton is in Bosnia this morning, touring U.S. bases and visiting American troops on the front lines of the peacekeeping mission. Mrs. Clinton's first stop is Tuzla, headquarters for the U.S. operation. Cheryl Atkinson is traveling with Mrs. Clinton.
Bosnia's acting president greeted Hillary Clinton and her daughter Chelsea in Tuzla this morning.
Yes.
So did an 8-year-old Bosnian girl who was 4 when the civil war broke out in her country and says she can't remember a time before it.
Because Mrs. Clinton, thank you so much. God bless you.
In December, Mrs. Clinton promised she would visit them here in a show of support for the mission and to thank them for their personal sacrifices.
You guys are doing a great job. I can't wait to thank everybody that I meet in person.
Though the trip was exactly 12 years ago tomorrow, the memories seemed etched in Clinton's mind.
There was supposed to be some kind of a greeting ceremony at the airport, but instead we just ran with our heads down to get into the vehicles to get to our base.
Problem is, that's not what happened. And we should know, CBS News accompanied the First Lady and daughter Chelsea on that Bosnia trip. That's Senator Clinton talking to me on the military flight into Tuzla. And these are the pictures we recorded of the greeting ceremony when the plane landed. Compare that to Senator Clinton's account.
I remember landing under sniper fire. There was no greeting ceremony, and we basically were told to run to our cars. Now that is what happened.
Thank you. There was no sniper fire either when Senator Clinton visited 2 Army outposts where she posed for photos, and no sniper fire back at the base, where she sang at a USO show starring Sinbad and Sheryl Crow.
Reporters traveling with her, including me, remember it differently.
We're going to eat a delicious meal of MREs.
There was no sniper attack, and Clinton was welcomed on the tarmac by a schoolgirl.
Among the reporters there to capture the moment was John Pomfret of the Washington Post.
The whole Tuzla sector was under the control of the Americans, and it was a pretty safe sector, so it was pretty much a very peaceful area.
We landed without incident, sauntered off the plane. There was a ceremony on the tarmac. There were children there. Mrs. Clinton took her time with Chelsea beside her to greet them, to greet the Bosnian dignitaries who were there, to greet the U.S. officials. The idea that she had to somehow duck and run to an armored car under sniper fire, that just didn't happen.
Sinbad, you were on that trip as well. What did you make of it when you heard her say what she said?
I didn't understand, just like the senator, I didn't understand the need to embellish it. Because, like I said, it had been a place that was a hot spot. But there was no need to add to the story because she was in Bosnia. We were there. We were visiting the troops. We'd seen people. We'd been places. But I don't understand the need to say that we were in danger.
you went on this trip. Was it, what, 1998?
In 1996.
96, okay.
1996.
How does your recollection of that trip match Mrs. Clinton's version during her speech recently?
Well, not exactly. You know, she wrote about it in her book more accurately, but in her prepared remarks on March 17th and in her answer to a question on March 17th, so just a week ago, she certainly did change or exaggerate or embellish the danger. Look, this was not a hazardous day, as you can tell from the pictures.
I want to read you some clips from contemporaneous reporting on this trip. Gannett, 3/26/96. Hillary Clinton paid tribute to U.S. troops serving in Bosnia, touring remote outposts not even her husband has seen. Reuters. Her route of flight to the camp, some 15 miles east of Tuzla, took her over burnt-out villages and farmhouses whose roofs had been blown off in the ferocious intercommunal fighting. A machine gun emplacement guarded the entrance of the outposts, and marked Bosnian minefields were visible outside its perimeter.
Right.
Chelsea Clinton was asked about Tuzla in Indiana.
I support what she said. I mean, yes, I was there as well, and I'm so honored that I was there with her and that I had the opportunity to travel with her.
One more. AP 325. Protected by sharpshooters, she swooped into a military zone by Black Hawk helicopters to deliver a personal thank you. She became the first presidential spouse since Eleanor Roosevelt to make such an extensive trip into what can be considered a hostile area, though others have visited hotspots. So let's look at some of the contemporaneous reporting at the time. I've just read it to you. It makes clear that Senator Clinton's assertions are accurate.
Okay, you know what we'll do, Howard? We'll pick that apart.
We were on a conference call at 12:15, and I asked Howard on the conference call, the daily conference call, about this discrepancy. And he said, well, perhaps she misspoke.
Now, it is possible in the most recent instance in which he discussed this that she misspoke with regard to the exit from the plane. There were reports of snipers in the hills, and they were forced to cut short an event on the tarmac. That is what she wrote in her book. That is what she has said many, many times. And on one occasion, she misspoke.
She meant that there was fire in the hillside around the area when we landed, which was the case.
And then later in the day, she went to an editorial board meeting with the Philadelphia Daily News.
Well, let me tell you what I can remember. Okay. Because, you know, what I was told is that we had to land a certain way and move quickly because of the threat of sniper fire. So I misspoke if I didn't say that in my book or other times, but if I said something that made it seem as though there was actual fire, that is not what I was told. I was told we had to land a certain way, we had to have our bulletproof stuff on because of the threat of sniper fire.
There was no particular risk there. I don't believe any of us wore our bulletproof vests at that point in time.
We were driving around in soft-skin cars. No reporters that I know of were wearing flak jackets at the time.
I was also told that the greeting ceremony had been moved away from the tarmac, but that there was this 8-year-old girl, and I said, well, I can't rush by her. I've got to at least greet her. So I greeted her, I took her stuff, and I left. Now that's my memory of it. I mean, good grief. I went to 80 countries, you know. I gave contemporaneous accounts. I wrote about a lot of this in my book. You know, I think that, you know, that's a minor, you know, blip. If I said something that, you know, I say a lot of things, millions of words a day. So if I misspoke, you know, that was just a misstatement.
Good to see you. Once again, her memory doesn't match our videotape. She and her daughter Chelsea lingered on the tarmac to greet U.S. military officials. Took photos. There was the group of 7th graders on the tarmac too. And then Senator Clinton walked to the armored vehicle where she did eventually duck and enter.
Yeah, I was the tactical advisor to Admiral Snuffy Smith, Leighton Smith. He was the commander-in-chief, the Sink of Bosnia. And I helped coordinate this particular visit and a lot of the VIPs visit, all of them, while I was there for a couple of years.
All right. Now, when you heard that Hillary Clinton said she was under fire, had to run to the car, no welcoming ceremony, and we're looking at the welcoming ceremony right now. When you heard her say that, what went through your mind? First impression?
It's a lie. It's an absolute lie, and it's insulting. We had F-18s overhead. That's Air Force, great Air Force guys. We had attack helicopters. We had 40 tanks. It was an armored division at Tuzla. There were 4,000 armed men, Secret Service and Navy SEALs. There wasn't anybody coughing in the Balkans the day she showed up.
This has been a very long campaign, so occasionally, you know, I am a human being like everybody else. And last week, you know, for the first time in 12 or so years, I misspoke.
No, wait, that's what I said when I was sleep deprived. You can read my book, and I said something very different. Yeah, I misspoke. Yeah, it was totally, I totally misspoke.
What exactly, how are Americans supposed to sort of take what happened here?
You know, I made a mistake in describing it. I have said many times, I have talked about this many times, that we were, you know, very much told by the Secret Service and the military that we were going into a war zone. We certainly did take precautions. There is no doubt about that, and I remember that very clearly, but I did make a mistake in talking about it, the last time and recently.
How do you respond to that claim that this is sort of a pattern that's developed?
Well, I just disagree with that. You know, look, I made a mistake, and, you know, I had a different memory, and my, my staff and others have, all kind of come together trying to sort out. So I made a mistake. That happens. It proves I'm human, which, you know, for some people is a revelation.
I can tell you that, you know, it was not under my direction or anybody that I know of to have the passengers sit on their flak jackets. Nobody under my watch has ever directed somebody to sit on their flak jacket. So no evasive maneuver, okay? I tell you, I will give it to the commander of Air Base Eagle. He had that place, you know, not only weren't there bullets flying around, there wasn't a bumblebee flying around. He had that place locked up tight. He had, it was really impressive. He had tanks pointing all the way around the perimeter. He had ground troops every place. He had helicopters in the air to make sure that nobody could, you know, for any ground movement. And we did the same approach we did every time. And it was a steep approach, but that's because there were hills around it. But it was just what we do every time. I mean, every landing into there was the same way. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, if there had been sniper fire going on, Rusty, first of all, we wouldn't have landed. Okay, that's number one. Number two, we wouldn't have let her outside the plane. You know, we had contingencies for just in case something like that. We would have gone around and gone back or gone someplace. But the fact that we landed tells you that there's nothing going to happen. There was no sniper fire on the ground. You know, let's just say that.
I mean, you know, gosh, lighten up, guys. I mean, obviously, come on. I say millions of words every week, and there's a lot more, room for error when you're talking as much as I'm talking.